Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. This is the live stream from our studio in Emmeloord, the Netherlands, where we talk about photography, where we talk about anything that has to do with shooting images. So we have to wait for all the live streams to start. So that means that I see now that YouTube is catching up and Facebook should be live now. And of course, during this workshop or during this live stream, you can ask any question you want. So whatever you want to know, you just ask. But let me first switch over to my cam because you now already see what we're going to do. Okay, guys, so here I am. Hey, welcome. And Digital Classroom, of course, is a live stream that's made possible by BenQ and Rogue. So now that we're all live, let's just start our trailer so you guys know what we're actually doing today. If I can find the trailer. There we go. And we're back. Now, Digital Classroom, of course, you can interact with us. On YouTube, we have a live chat open. You can ask whatever you want. It also can be some stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the live broadcast. So today we're going to do a live broadcast with lighting. So there's a certain theme. If you think about something that, hey, I would really like to ask Frank that, don't be ashamed, just ask me, because we will see all the questions coming in and I will try to answer everything. And maybe we can incorporate that, for example, in the second set. If you want to do something really cool and other stuff, let me see very quickly. There we go. Now, if you want to do something cool, what do? You, of course, think about styling. You think about set dressing. You think about maybe mixing light sources. And mixing light sources is actually where it went wrong. Now, this morning we woke up and the first thing I realized was, oh, I forgot to send a Christmas card. Normally we send out digital Christmas cards, which we shoot during a workshop or whatever, and I totally forgot. Now, of course, this is a little bit play, right? Because, of course, I didn't forget. I knew Digital Classroom was coming up, but hey, go with the flow. So I forgot to shoot my Christmas card. So today I thought it would be cool for you guys to shoot a Christmas card. And, of course, we have our model and stylist and awesome person here, Nadine. And, of course, my other awesome person is also here, Anouk. Otherwise, she's angry if I don't mention her. So, anyway, right, Anouk? Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so what are we going to do today? One of the most difficult things for a lot of people and what they ask me about a lot is actually mix light sources. And I know a lot of you guys are now jumping up and down like, hey, finally we have a Digital Classroom with mixing light sources. And in all essence, it's not that hard. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through the whole set. We're going to do the retouching, of course. We're going to talk a little bit about the whole look with the little lights. Let me show you very quickly what we actually have set up. So you can see a Christmas tree, because hey, it's going to be a Christmas card. You see Nadine and you see a lot of light. Now, those lights, of course, where the biggest problem lies, is that those lights are really, really low in output. And your strobe, of course, is really powerful in output. So how do you mix those two? What do you do? Well, that's what today is all about. So I'm going to go to the studio, I'm going to grab my camera, and we're going to make some cool images for, well, my Christmas card. So if you're part of our Patreon, or if you should be part of our Patreon. So if you're part of our Patreon or you are part of our mailing list, tonight you will get a Christmas card from us with Nadine. Now I spoiled it. Okay, anyway, are you guys ready? I am ready. And from my side, I would like to thank BenQ and Rogue, of course, for making Digital Classroom possible. And by the way, if you think that this is the last season, nope. They renewed for another season. So we're going to go through another 10 episodes of Digital Classroom. That's awesome because I love doing Digital Classroom. Okay, let me first see if we have any questions. Hey, Frank, nice guitar. I don't have a guitar here. Probably you mean the guitar from the guitar project of which we just finished. It's awesome. And on Monday, I hope to have the video online because I still have to record some stuff for that. Okay, let me see. Any other questions? It shows an amazing scene, yes. Oh, there's a question here. I've just installed Luminar 3 and wow, do you like it? In all honesty, I absolutely love Luminar and it's a really great package if you're on a Mac. On the PC, there's still some issues where you have a preview and you run everything through and the preview looked a certain way and then you come back in Photoshop and the preview looks totally different. Now you can solve that by just using a little bit of curves. I will show you that today, but it's I really hope they fix that bug. It's in there now for 6 months. So Luminar, come on, work on that bug for Windows users. Get that bug out. And if the bug is out, it's without any doubt one of my favorite plugins at the moment, together with Alien Skin. It's just awesome. But I really need to see on my screen, and then in Photoshop I need to have the same image. And at this moment it isn't. And it's not a big difference, but it's enough. Okay, so let's go to the studio and then do the photo shoot. So Anouk, are you taking over from me?
Yes.
That's awesome. So let me switch to the camera. There we go. Which camera should we pick? That one? No, that's us. Sorry. Let me see this one.
Yes.
I think that's Martin. Yeah, let's take that one. We're just playing a little bit with you guys, of course. Okay. So one of the first things that you will notice in this setup is actually Nadine. And the other thing that you will notice is the Christmas tree. Now, when you normally use strobes, one of the things that will happen is you will get a lot of output from your strobe, so a lot of lighting, and then the Christmas tree will be totally dark. So how do you solve this? How does it work? And one of the things you have to remember that your strobe is always a pulse. So in other words, if you have a shutter speed of, let's say, 1 second or 10 seconds or an eternity, it doesn't matter, the strobe will only fire once. So at that one point where it fires, that's where it actually registers, for example, F8, F16 or F12, whatever. Now, your continuous lighting is exactly as it says. It's continuous lighting, so it constantly adds up. So that means when you start off with a very, very short shutter speed, it will be very dark. Now, the higher you get that shutter speed, the slower you get that shutter speed, the more of the continuous lighting you get in. So a strobe is just one pulse, continuous lighting just adds up. So if you leave your shutter open for, let's say, 10 seconds, the Christmas tree will be totally white for the very simple reason there's a lot of light. Now, if you leave your shutter speed open for 10 seconds and you do a strobe, it will give you exactly the same image as with 125th or whatever shutter speed, because it's only a pulse. Of course, taking into account that the rest of the studio is totally dark, because otherwise you have continuous lighting. So, Nadine, are you ready for this? You will be my Christmas card this year. Does it feel right?
Yeah, I was last year.
Yeah, she was last year's Christmas card too. She's always my Christmas card. No, not always, but most of the time. Okay, so what am I using? Now, the thing that I want to make sure of is that I only hit my model with lighting. So we're using a Hensel strip light, and in the Hensel strip light there's a very, very tight grid. Now, as soon as we're done with this shoot, I will show you the grid. It's a new Light Tools grid. It will be released, I hope, in the next 2 or 3 months. It's very, very narrow. And what I like about that Light Tool grid, we just got it in this morning, is that it actually really narrows that the beam of light. Now, how does that work? Now, normally when you use a strip light, this will be like your field of view, like normal with a camera. Now, when you add a grid, you can do a wide grid, or a narrow grid, or a very narrow grid. And what you do is you steer that light forward. In essence, there shouldn't be a real difference in light output. Of course, there's always a little bit of a difference. But in essence, as soon as the model is in the hotspot, you shouldn't lose too much light output. So grids are a really cool addition. The other thing is, let's say that my light still gives too much power, because we want to shoot this probably on ISO 200. It's just a guesstimate. And at that point, what do we do if the light source still has too much power? You can do a few things. You can take off your shirt, if it's a white shirt, and just put it over your strobe. And at that point, you create, of course, another barrier, another diffusion panel, and it will take away lighting. You can also feather your light. Now, what is feathering the light? Now it's aimed straight at my model. What I can also do is just aim it away from my model, so the model is hit by the side of the light. Now, of course, we did a very, very quick test shot, and I don't need to do anything else today, so I can aim it straight at my model. And that's one of the main advantages of using a strobe system like the Hensel, where you can actually go down a lot in power. And I will explain a little bit about that later. So the first things first, metering the light. So we're going to meter the light on Nadine. So I'm going to grab a light meter and, of course, a trigger. And let me see where the light meter is. Okay, thank you, Bart. Our intern, Bart. Okay, now a lot of people ask me, like, how do you meter light? It's very, very simple. It's an incident meter, so that means that it meters the light hitting the light meter. So where do you aim it? you don't aim it at all. You hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. So don't aim it towards the camera. Don't aim it towards the light source. You hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. In the case of the studio, that's in 99.9% of the cases, aim it towards the light source. Because why is the light source otherwise there if you want to, you know? So aim it towards the light source, but in essence, hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. Okay. Nice. It's a very, very low setting, 1.03. So let's go to ISO 200. Maybe even go to 400. There we go. Okay. 2.04. It's really low. So let's just up that a little bit to go to 2.8. Okay. There we go. Okay, 2.8. Now, 2.8 ISO 400, that's something I can work with, because at that point I know that probably the Christmas tree will be rendered correctly. There's only one thing I have to do, guys, and I'm really sorry for that. We have to turn off the studio lighting for the very simple reason, if I leave the studio lighting on, I have another light source that is continuous that will actually infect my image, of course, with the Christmas tree. And after that, we're just going to play a little bit with everything. So we're going to turn that light off. And Emmeloord is going to switch to the split screen where you guys can see Capture One. And it's the new Capture One 12. It's really awesome. Okay, let's grab the camera. And I'm going to go a little bit further away because I want to zoom in. Because the moment I zoom in, that's actually the moment where we will get a really cool shot. And let me first do it on, let's do 125th of a second. So our normal studio setting. Okay, focus on the eyes of the model, composition, and shoot. Now this is without strobes. And as you can see, it's a really dark image. But in essence, you already see the Christmas tree lighting up, right? So now at the strobe. So now I tighten my remote. Okay, so now we have one strobe from the back with blue light. And we have one strobe on our model with white light. And that actually already creates a little bit of tension. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Emmeloord, is that camera okay on me or is it a little bit too dark?
It's a little bit dark.
A little bit dark? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this light. I'm going to move it a little bit closer towards me and hope it doesn't intervene with our studio setup.
There's a question about the hair light.
Yep.
Did you also meter that?
I didn't meter the hair light because it's at the moment at the lowest setting. Okay, let me see if this doesn't interfere with my shot. Okay, that's okay, I think. Yeah, it adds a little bit, but not that much. Okay, so now the first thing, of course, I want to do is I want to make sure that that Christmas tree lights up a little bit more because it's a little bit dark now. So let's just lower that shutter speed to, let's say, a 40th or 30th of a second. Now you have to think about breathing at the moment. Take a deep breath and breathe out. Because at the moment you are shooting on a 30th of a second or even lower, it's very important that you keep that camera steady. Remember, I'm shooting on 2.8, so I don't have a lot of depth of field. So breathe in, make sure you have a contact point with your camera, and make sure that you keep it steady. So focus on the model. Breathe in and then breathe out while you're shooting. And there we go. So now we have that Christmas tree lighting up. So let's take some shots like this. Love it. And of course you have to coach your model, which I'm not doing at the moment. So Frank, why aren't you coaching your model? Because he's doing fine. And that's actually a mistake. Because you should then at least tell your model, you're doing fine, Nadine. It looks awesome. Great. Nice.
Hey Frank.
Love it. Yes, Emmeloord.
Should we move the balls? Because they're now in their hair.
Yeah, that's one of the things, of course, we created this whole set. And now we actually find out that the balls, the Christmas balls, are a little bit too high and a little bit towards her head. So that's what we're going to change very quickly. And this is something on a set. Be creative, be flexible, change stuff around if you see it doesn't work. So Emmeloord is, that's not Emmeloord, that's Bart. So what you can do, Bart, is just lower the backdrop system a little bit. Bart, just lower it a little bit. The whole thing, just lower it. No, just do one side first. Just a little bit, not too much. A little bit more. Stop, and then do the other part. Or just leave it like this. Let's see what happens now. There we go. So I would like the balls a little bit that way. Still feels weird to call it Christmas balls, but I don't know any other word for it. Christmas three-dimensional circles.
Disco balls.
Okay, disco balls. Yeah, why not? There we go. Love it. Awesome. Nice. And you see that on a 30th of a second, I can still pretty much freeze everything. And that's, of course, because the strobes are actually freezing the motion and the model. So even if I move my camera like this, now you can actually see that the strobe freezes. Oh, sorry. You see the strobe freezes my model. And by moving, you can actually see that the Christmas tree, which is continuous lighting, that's actually not frozen by the light. So this is a really cool thing to see. So of course, normally you keep your camera really steady like this, and then it seems like everything is just frozen. Nice. Love it. And of course, you also do some close-ups. I'm going to go a little bit closer to the model, use some contrast. Don't ever shoot everything from one location. Always try to mix it up a little bit, because hey, she's here anyway. Nice. Love it. And of course, you can do a little bit lower, for example, and get those Christmas trees in, Christmas balls. Nice. Love it. Okay, make sure that you focus on her eye and not on the stuff in front. Okay, but now when I look at the shot, I actually think that maybe it can be a little bit more daring, a little bit more spectacular. So Bart, okay, you turn the backstrobe 3 stops up and just stay there, because 3 will be a little bit too much. So I use the blue light in the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add 3 stops to the blue light, which is actually a lot, because every stop is double the light. So we're actually doing 3 stops now. The reason I'm doing this is just to get like a flood effect. So let's just see how it looks for a close-up first. Did you erase it 3 stops? Okay. So now what you see is that you actually get an aura of blue light around my model. It's maybe a little bit too strong, but for now I actually like it, to be honest. There we go. It's not blowing out as much as I expected. That's cool. Really nice. So let's just sit down again and shoot it from here. So a lot of people requested me to do a little bit more flatter lighting and high key. So guys, here you go. Nice. Really like this. It's a totally over-the-top image, of course. It's totally overblown in some parts. But on the other hand, it also gives you that really nice, I almost want to say Christmas feeling, but you know what I mean, right? It's like an aura of light around my model. So I really like this. Let's do a little bit from the side. So let's just move here. I hope I'm still in the camera's view. There we go. So other angles can work really, really nice. Don't ever be stuck in one angle. You see a lot of photographers just being stuck in one angle and they miss all the great shots from another angle. Sounds logical, right? If you don't move around, you won't get the shot. Now, another trick I'm actually using at the moment is I'm using eye focus on the Sony. And this is a little bit of magic. So what happens, Annemiek, is that camera on? Yes. Okay, so I have the OK button over here. When I press the OK button, the camera finds the face of the model and the eyes actually. It finds the eyes of the model. It will focus. So I don't have to do this. Focus, make a composition, shoot. Now I still prefer, to be honest, to be doing this because now I'm in total control. but sometimes it just speeds up your workflow, especially if you have a lot of light like here. You just aim it, you make your composition, you press the OK button, and you press the shutter. As you can see now, I don't have to move around. And in all honesty, this will give me a little bit more keepers. But I've been doing that center focus part so many times and so many years that overall, for me, it doesn't really matter. But if you're new to this kind of stuff, eye focus is absolutely awesome, because you just make your composition, you press OK, and now it doesn't work. And then the old version still works. You see now it loses eye focus. Okay. And manual always works. Let me see why that works. There we go. Okay, Nadine, love it. I'm zooming in just a little bit more to get the Christmas tree from the side, so now I will be out of frame probably. But just bear with me. Oh, I'm still in the frame. Wow. Absolutely amazing. Love it, Nadine. Wow. You look stunning. Always give your model a lot of compliments, because it really works nice. Now let's see if we can get that blue light in. So I'm actually going to sit here. And Bart, can you turn it all the way up on full power? Thank you. Okay, that was way too much. Turn it down. Sometimes I'm a little bit too over-enthusiastic. 8. Okay, let me see if that works. Yep, too much. Turn it down. 7. Turn it down to 6.5. That's better. And again, this is totally overexposed, but I just love the look that it gives. A little bit of lens flare. Now I wish my backdrop would be a little bit higher. So just change your position a little bit. There we go. Nice. Keep it that way. Cool. Now everything is overblown, like she has an aura of light around her, and it almost goes to a high key shot. But I really, really like it. And why create it in Photoshop if you can actually do it on set? Why fake it when you can create it, remember? It's actually my first instructional video ever I started with, why fake it when you can create it. It was also my first Kelby video. And I have some really cool news for you guys. In January, the first week of January, there will be a film crew of Kelby in our studio, and we will be doing two new classes. And I'm not going to tell you yet what it's about, but it's going to be awesome. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit. It's going to be also including flags and classical lighting. So if you're not a member of Kelby Training yet, or Kelby 1, sorry, we have a really cool offer for you very soon with $30 off. But I'm going to show you that in a moment. Okay, love these shots. Okay, Nadine, I'm going to see what I can do in Photoshop with this. And then let's do another set. Are you ready for another set? Is that a red set? Rudolph. Yes, let's do that. Okay, let's go to Photoshop and let's see what we can do. Okay, now first things first. I of course told you guys about that Kelby deal. And of course, if you are into photography and you want to make sure that you get the best education possible, Kelby 1 is without any doubt one of the best platforms in the world for instructors. It has the best instructors in the world, in my opinion. So we're going to show you very quickly what I already have on Kelby, and that's actually on Amsterdam. But in the end, you will see a really cool offer, and you have to email me for the code. So make sure that you email me, because this offer is only valid, I think, another week, and we don't want it online forever. So there's a message there, just email me. But Kelby, without any doubt, highly, highly recommended. Hey guys, welcome in the Netherlands, Amsterdam. This is my home country, and my name is Frank Dorhoff. If you want to learn more about studio photography, the first thing you have to understand is how do you build your own studio. There are so many problems you will encounter during the building of your studio. The size is too small, the size is too big. What do I do with the walls? And the list goes on and on and on. In this class, I will give you a lot of tips about how to build your studio. But of course, I will also show you some cool tricks with lighting, because that's of course a very vital part of your studio. So check out my class on building your studio on Calibration 1. Hey guys, and welcome to our studio in Emmeloord. My name is Frank Dorhoff, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that we get a lot of questions about. Hey Frank, how do you like this image? Hey Frank, what can I improve in this image? And of course, I love to help you guys out. But online, I mostly am limited to just saying, hey, I really like it, or continue like this, or change this. I can only do short images because, let's be honest, we get so many questions. So that's what actually got us thinking. And we started a Patreon. Now, what is a Patreon? Well, let me put it this way. Do you want an extensive photo critique every month? Do you want the bed phone, where you can directly contact me with any questions you have? Do you want to be member of a group that's closed off on Facebook that have the same interest as you guys? That isn't about putting people down, but it's actually about helping people progress in their photography and retouching. Well, that's our Patreon. Now, by joining our Patreon, every month you can deliver 1 or 2 images. We're not that strict about it. And I will do a whole video. In that video, I will show you how I would do the retouching, what I would change about the shot, and I give you a whole lot of tips. That video is put online on a closed-off website. And it means that only the guys from Patreon can see that video and help you out. So I help you out, and the whole community helps you out. It's just an awesome way to learn. So, if you like what we do, of course, the first thing you can do is subscribe to our channels, leave comments, and smash that like button because we really like it, and tell other people about it. But if you want to do a little bit more and help us out creating the awesome programs you enjoy, like Behind the Closed Doors, Digital Classroom, quite frankly, our upcoming podcast, Beyond Photography with the Dorhoffs, and a lot more, then please join our Patreon. I already know you're absolutely gonna love it. So head on over to the link below and start joining our awesome group on Patreon and get a lot of benefits. Thank you so very much for supporting our work. See you online. Hey guys. Don't start that video again. Okay, so we are now behind the computer, so let me just switch to split screen so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. So as mentioned before, we have the new Capture One 12, and Capture One 12 is a little bit confusing for me at the moment because they did change a lot in the menus, and when you use something a lot, that's actually where you can run into big problems for the very simple reason you know exactly where everything is, and then they change everything. But in all honesty, it's for the better, because it really is a lot better. Okay, now the first thing I'm gonna do is of course select my images. Now I'm very, very picky when selecting images, and this has a very, very simple reason. If you aren't picky when selecting your images, it can be that your hard drive just fills up really, really fast, because these files are like 70 megabytes or 50 megabytes, but they're big. Now, as soon as you make TIFFs of them, they're 350 megabytes. Now, during a normal shoot, we shoot around 100 images. So if I don't delete like half of them because I don't really like them, my hard drives will fill up. Now in this case, the first image you see is actually the image without any lights. And as you can see, the Christmas tree is already rendering. Now look what that lighting actually brings. Now there's a difference. And this is something I really have to explain to you guys because it's really important in the case of this shot. Somebody asked me, did you meter the backlight? No. And there's a reason. Now, when you look at this shot, this is correctly lit. So it's 100% correct, ISO 400, 2.8. It's exactly what the light meter tells me. And when I look at the image, I actually tell you it looks great. It's totally correct. But sometimes you don't want correct. Sometimes you want a little bit of flair, a little bit of extra. I always call it cooking with light. Just add a little bit of salt, add a little bit of pepper, and just make it to taste. So, why should you use a light meter if you change everything? Why should you use a color checker? Why you change everything? Well, if you have that certain base where you start off, so the perfect image, it becomes really easy to create presets or to just sync everything to the other images. So let's say I really like this shot. Now I'm going to sync it to all the other images and they will look all the same. If you don't do it and you just play around in the studio, it will actually mean that every image will have a slightly different exposure, slightly different color, and you will run into problems. Okay, but first let's mix in that Christmas tree. So these were the normal shots. And now I actually opened up my shutter speed to 1/30 of a second. And the first thing you see is that everything stays the same, but it still changes. So how is that possible? Everything stays the same and still it changes. Well, very simple. By adding more light at that Christmas tree, I'm adding more light in the set. And Nadine is standing really close to that Christmas tree. So that means that Nadine, of course, is getting a lot more light. Now, because the Christmas tree has a different color temperature, and we actually messed that up pretty much, as you can see in the first shot, we have a little bit of a red color in there and a little bit of a blue color. Now, of course, these strobes are around 5,000 degrees Kelvin, so it's a whole mess of colors. Then we have the blue light from the back. And in all honesty, it's a nightmare if you want to color balance everything, because you need CTO gels, but where do you put the CTO gels? Because we have so much going on. And that's actually the cool thing about it. Remember that cooking part? Just throw everything together, but make sure that you split that light. That's why on this side we have the strip light, then we have Nadine, then we have the Christmas tree with different colors of lighting, and then the blue comes actually under that same angle from the back, and that just mixes everything together into something that looks really nice, according to me. Okay, so let's just go through the images very quickly. As you can see here, I didn't change anything yet. I just kept it the way that it was. And I see that sometimes the strip didn't fire. So those are the images that I can actually delete. Never seen that happen before. Okay. Here we have some hands in front of the face, so that draws a shadow. So we keep that one out. I really like this one. But these images don't really do it for me yet. When I look at the images, I go like, you know, it's interesting. It's cool. We have Nadine with wings, and we have a cool blue backdrop. We have a Christmas tree. But in all honesty, it looks a little bit bland. It looks a little bit boring. Can you use Photoshop? Yeah. Of course, we're going to put a filter on it and make it a little bit more blurry and a little bit more over the top. And add. Why use Photoshop if you can do it on the set? So that's why after a while, oh, this was the one where I explained the motion. So let's just delete that one too. Okay. And as you can see, the strobes actually freeze. Okay, so at one point I started doing under angles. Now you can see actually that I like this more. And the reason I don't like this one, but I do like this one, is here it makes sense that the exposure is correct. If I look at this one, I'm just going like, oh, I wish there was something more. It's now like there's this big hole over there that it just needs to be filled up with lighting or accessories or whatever. It just doesn't look in balance. Now this shot does look in balance, and I'm actually going to give this one a 5. So I really like that one. Oh, I like this one even better. So another 5. And don't worry, you can give as many 5s as you want. It's not that like they're expensive or whatever. Let me just see if that's sharp. That's sharp. Okay, I really like this with the Christmas balls in the back. This one I moved a little bit. So there we go. Now another thing that I really like about Capture One is actually that you can do this. And this is something that you guys should really do. Show focus mask. Everything that's green has high contrast, should be in focus. So when I zoom in, I can actually see that indeed around the eyes it takes your focus, your contrast, and it looks pretty well. So this is one of the things that I love about Capture One. I'm not going to use it now because I just want to first see the image without the green on. Okay, so this is where we changed. This image is where we started to add that more aggressive backlight. And as you can see, it totally changes the look of the shot. You go from, let me go back, you go from this, which is okay, and then immediately go to this. So I really like this more. It gives more life to the scene. I really like this shot too. Let me see what we can do with this. Okay. As you can see, I'm experimenting with angles. Here we have the Christmas tree. I love this one. This one is really nice. Give it 5 stars. Do you realize that this is the first image I see with this lighting and I immediately go, ooh, I really like that? I'm already going to tell you guys, this is not the shot I'm going to retouch probably, because there will be more that I like. But the fact that immediately after seeing the normal shots, As soon as that light comes in, the first shot I go like, ooh, I really like this. Because I've seen the other ones, I'm not impressed with the other ones, and then I see this one, I go like, wow. So it really means that that light actually helps. There we go, love this one. Really nice, love her pose. Now I don't want that fashiony look, I want something a little bit more Christmassy, whatever. Okay, I like this one. Now you have to remember that I also have to put text in there probably. We're going to do that under. I don't know yet. And this can be really important if you shoot for a client or you shoot a cover for a magazine. Just make sure that you know where the text is going to be. Capture One actually has an option called overlay, where you can, for example, ask your client for the cover or the brief paper or whatever you have to shoot. And then you use that overlay, and then while shooting, you can actually just place that image exactly where it should be so that all the text is visible. Oh, I love this one. Now, of course, in Photoshop, we're going to change some stuff, but as you can see, this one is also awesome. Oh, I have a problem. It's way too much. Okay. And at one point, we started to add even more light and under angles. I love this one. You can see from this series I love a lot more shots. This one is awesome. This one is a little bit overexposed. Let's see what we can bring back. Just for fun, let's see what those Sony cameras can do. Okay, this one was totally beyond repair. But it's still funky. No, it's not. Okay. This is savable. But I don't like the shot, so I'm not going to use it. But as you can see here, you can get a lot of detail back from those Sony cameras. I really like it. I do like this. A lot of light, less light. Just use your highlight slider. It's okay. It has potential, but not enough. Okay, let me see. Okay. Oh, I like this, but I don't like the composition. It's, I think, a little bit too cramped. So this one is cool. Now, as soon as I move to the sides, I actually like those shots better. And this is why you shoot from different locations and different setups, because during the photo shoot, you can literally just change your mind. Like, hey, I really like this or I really like that. And sometimes you don't do a live stream, but people can vote. Don't vote. Okay, I have sort on rating, so that means that if I now go back to the start, I will actually have my images. First, let me see if there are any questions. I think for the optimum aerodynamics efficiency, Nadine's wings need to be a little bit higher. I think so too, but I think she's tired from flying all the way from Arnhem over here, so her wings just were whatever. I know what you mean. Greetings from Thailand. Hello, Thailand. Let me see. Capture One makes TIFF files. Do you store all your files in TIFF because they are much bigger, or only on the selected? Okay, so the images I see now are RAW files, HRW, or in other words, the Sony RAW file. As soon as I have my image in Photoshop, that's when it's a TIFF 16 bits, and I store it as a TIFF 16 bits, or you can store it as a PSD. I don't store that as JPEGs for the very simple reason I want to take my optimum quality. Okay, this one I like less than this one. To make it a little bit more fit with the other one, I'm going to overexpose this just slightly, because it looks totally different from the other shots. Okay, this is better. Okay, this one I don't like anymore. And this is the cool thing about going through something twice, because now I look totally different, because now I look at all those shots combined and I can actually choose the ones that I like most. The hand over here, that's for me a little bit of a, I don't know. No, don't like the hand. Okay. And I only need one. This is more like she has a headache. So don't take that one. It's a little bit sad, maybe. That's better. Look at that. Look at those eyes. Let me see if that one is sharp. Yes. Oh, I love this one. This one is okay. Maybe also overexposed just a little bit to mimic the other one. Okay. This one is without a doubt my favorite. And I love these. These two are actually my favorites. And then if I have to choose, I would probably choose this one because of the wings. Here the wings look a little bit more wrapped around her body. Here the wings really make her stand out. So this is the one. Okay, does it mean I delete the other ones? No, of course not. I'm still going to retouch them, but not during this live broadcast. Nice. So let's do this one. Okay, we're going to show you very quickly how you retouch it and what you do. So, of course, you can use your highlight slider to get all the detail back, but in this case, don't do it because that actually makes the shot that you have that little bit more extra. I'll just pull it down a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's go into Photoshop. Now, what I do in Photoshop is TIFF 16 bits, uncompressed Adobe RGB. The resolution doesn't really matter. Scale fixed, do Adobe Photoshop. Okay, Control D. So let's go into Photoshop. Now, one of the things that I have to show you guys, which is pretty interesting, is actually that when I retouch, I'm using the Wacom Cintiq over here, and I'm actually using a monitor on top, the BenQ. Let me see if I can show you that very quickly. So I have the Cintiq over here, and I have my BenQ over here. And the reason for this is very simple. The Cintiq is absolutely awesome, but in color and detail in shadow areas, it's actually a little bit less than the BenQ. So that's why we use the BenQ actually for the color correcting and seeing exactly what I do. So that means that we're always using two monitors, one on the top for the critical work, one on the bottom. So how do I do it? When you go into Photoshop, there's a window and you can actually choose for your navigator. Now, navigator normally is really small. You just drag it to your second monitor and you make it full screen. And at that point, you can actually see that you can see on your navigator what's going on. Okay, I do believe we have a little YouTube problem.
No.
Oh, okay, it's going up again. There we go. Okay. Okay, there's another question. Yes, Frank, but when you transport them to Lightroom, they go into TIFF. Yes, when you go to Lightroom, when you go to Photoshop, everything that you do and retouch in will be a TIFF 16 bits. Don't go for 8 bits because they're smaller, because you also have a lot less room to wiggle around in. So make sure that at the moment you go to Photoshop, you use TIFF 16 bits. And then, of course, when I'm in TIFF 16 bits, I also store in TIFF 16 bits. You could store in 8 bits, but hey. Okay, first things first. Now, I have this workflow where I go through and I actually always do the same thing. So that means that the first thing I'm going to do is the skin. So we have a really cool filter for this called Image Normal Portraiture. So let's go into Portraiture. And this is the newest version. And you go to 100%. And there you go. And as you can see here, I have it on full blast. So I have it on 100%. Now 100% is of course way too much, but I'm going to show you in a moment why. Are there any questions on Facebook, Annemiek?
Just the guy who says he always tries to shoot it to crop in camera.
Yeah, always crop in camera. I do the same thing.
And what brand of BenQ do you have? What's the model?
The brand is BenQ and I'm using the SW320. Okay, we have another question. Can you merge two photos? One, for example, where you like the gesture and one where you like the light. Yes, of course you can. You just merge them. Very simple. You just put them over each other and then you just take the parts which you like from one image to take it in the other. Now, if you, for example, from the start off know that you want to merge, make sure you shoot on a tripod. Because the Christmas tree, I hope, doesn't move. Otherwise, it's a really scary Christmas tree. So the balls don't move and only the model moves. So at that point, you can just shoot on a tripod and then everything will be stable except the model. So you can really easily interchange that between shots. Now, if you shoot it handheld, the story goes a little bit different because now when you shoot handheld, your angle is different, your tilt is different, your skew might be different. And at that point, it becomes literally a little bit, it's still doable, but it's a little bit of a nightmare to get that all lined up. So don't do that. Okay. So I have this full-blown 100% filter on top of my model, which looks absolutely horrendous. Not my model, of course, but the filter. But I want that really like a nice Barbie look for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to take it out. So I'm going to go to Layer, Layer Mask, and then Hide All. There we go. Now I take a brush with white paint. And instead of doing it on 100%, I'm actually using it on, let's say, 50%. There we go. And now, because it's already on 100% in the filter, it actually blurred my colors very nicely. And by doing it on 50% on my brush, I can actually have all the benefits from a totally overblown filter without looking at fake. And as you can see here, this looks way better than before. It just blends a little bit better. And it's a technique I don't use. I started using it not so long ago. So it's not like I've using this technique for years. I always did the filter on, let's say, 50% and then just added another one if I need it on certain places. At one point I started doing it at 100% and just building it up by using my brush. And it just works way better. So if you're also using skin filters, just try it out. Totally overdo it. And then, like you hear me now doing, I'm building the effect up on certain areas. And the cool thing is it will hardly ever be 100% unless you put it on 100%. Now some people will also use the touch sensitivity or the pressure sensitivity of the Wacoms. That's also cool. Okay, there we go. Really like this. Okay, layer. Flatten image. This is what I always do. I always flatten my images or flatten my layers, and at that point you just can work on. Okay, now this is a very important and vital step for everything. So for street and travel photography, for model photography, whatnot more. Make sure you zoom in and you go minutious, I hope that's the correct term. You go through your images and you just look very quickly, but also very carefully about problems. Now do remember that sometimes you only see problems full screen and sometimes you only see them zoomed in. Like in this shot, here we have the batteries. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my lasso tool, going around the batteries, and just use the delete key and use content aware fill from Photoshop. There we go. Let's go really easy. Now use your healing brush on a lower and just fill those blanks up. There you go. Looks pretty good. Okay, do we see any other problems here which I don't like? All the cables are okay because they're Christmas lights. Don't try to take them out. Takes way too much time. Okay, now of course the balls I want to be floating in the air. So the first thing I'm going to do is, of course, you can do the healing brush, but to be honest, this takes way too much time. Let's do it faster. Let's go to the European Union flag, or in other words, the quick mask. Take your brush and just paint it in on 100%. And just paint over everything that you want gone. Okay, there we go. Just go here. Okay, there we go. Okay. Press again. Now everything is selected. By the way, there's a cool little trick. If you press it twice, you can actually, so let me do that again. If you press it twice, you can actually set your quick mask options. So we have an option called masked areas or selected areas. Now normally out of the box Photoshop will set it on masked areas. Put it on selected areas because then when you paint something in, you don't have to do the whole inverse selection or press delete, wait for 10 minutes and see that everything is gone except the part that you want gone. So at this point just press delete and there we go. Better. Now, content aware fill isn't perfect, of course. Then it would be called Anoweek, but hey. It's a new filter in Photoshop, Anoweek. There we go. Okay. And the other ball is still there. That's nice. Now, if you want, you can, of course, take those balls and put them anywhere else, but hey, why do that? Okay, the only thing I now want to do is I really like the shot, but let me just add some atmosphere. And in this case, because it's a Christmas shot, we can bring in some magic. And one of the coolest things to bring in magic is actually alien skin exposure. And they just released the new one, X4, and it's absolutely awesome. Okay, let me just pull that to my Wacom. So you saw that? That actually opened up on the top monitor for the very simple reason. That's where I want my color correction to be correct. Okay, now I'm going to go through something that I called clickety-click until you see what you like. So in other words, I just click on some presets until I see one that I really like. So I'm still looking for what do I want. I actually like that it makes it a little bit more red. Just tone it down. Oh, I like this. Let's just go for something that's a little bit cooler. And because the image is already a little bit overblown, of course, all these filters, when I create them, I always add a little bit of bite. And that means that now I'm actually losing a little bit of detail, but I really like this one. So before, after, that's really nice. And now add a little bit of spherical effects. So go to overlays and then lighting effects. And then just go to, and I want something behind the Christmas balls. So let's do maybe sun flares. No. Just want something a little bit more lighting wise. Let's zoom that in. There we go. Now turn it off and on, and you can see that there's a very slight overlay over the whole image, which I really, really like. Okay, let me see if we have another one that's even better. That's the cool thing about alien skin. You can just change whatever you want. And nowadays you can actually also change the position of your lighting. Like for example, if I use top light, you see that there's no move it around. But if you use, for example, and now none can be moved around, great. I just love it when that happens. There we go. Now I'm still going to go for the blue haze and go that way. Or teal haze, it's actually. There we go. So just turn it off and on. This is always what I do to see the effect. If it's very slight but I miss it, that's when I like it. So in this case, drop the opacity down. And you have to trust me, normally you can move these around. I don't know why it doesn't do it now. It's always during a live broadcast. Okay, there we go. It's a very, very slight. You hardly see it, and this is what I meant, like that part was a little bit too dark, and you hardly see it, but by moving it around, you just create it a little bit more intense. So, let me see. It's rendering. I have a lot of stuff running now on the computer for the live stream, so it takes a little bit longer. But there we go. Okay, I really like it. And just pull it down. The effect, there we go. So before, after. Okay, now let's say you want a little bit more detail in the dress. Now in this case, I think that would really work out fine. So layer, flatten image. Now one of the things that I love to do with Topaz is actually filter Topaz Studio. And just go for clarity. It's still the same studio. So when you buy Topaz Studio, you can go for the Pro version or the normal version. But when you start it up, you always select what you want to do. So for example, clarity or detail or whatever. But it's the same program. It just makes it a little bit easier to find. Oh, no update for now. Okay. Let's grab Topaz Studio here. There we go. So you see all the clarity. Now what I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to search for my own clarity. There we go. Okay. Let's see which one I like best. I think this one is a little bit softer. Let's press OK. So now again, I'm doing it on 2 layers. I just realized, yeah, I do it on 2 layers. Great. Now, of course, okay, one moment. So you see before and after, and of course you don't want it on the whole image because it takes away that nice glow effect, right? So I'm going to do this layer mask, hide all. Yes, Annemiek, what was the question?
The picture on YouTube is not really sharp.
The picture on YouTube is not really sharp. It's something that a lot of people ask me, like, since the last episode. I can't help that, guys. I don't know what YouTube is doing. If somebody can help us out with that, please help us out. When we record it here, it looks razor sharp. When I look at my desktop in Wirecast, it actually, even on the thumbnails, it's razor sharp. We're outputting 1080p on, I believe, 12 megabits, which is way over the limit that YouTube actually says you have to put it out, because YouTube actually says 6, so we're on double the bandwidth, and still it looks fuzzy. I don't know, maybe when it's recorded and you look it back later, it could be something with buffering. I really don't know. So I'm very sorry for that, guys. But just bear with me, and sorry. Okay, so I made that layer over here. So I'm going to take a brush with white paint, and what I'm going to do is I'm only going to paint the effect that I want in the dress. I'm giving it some detail back that I lost by doing all that nice stuff with, well, the lighting and the stuff in alien skin. So I'm just bringing that back. There we go. Maybe a little bit in the tree. Now the tree should be like this, so don't do it in the tree. Maybe a little bit here. There we go, this is better. Okay, and overall I think we have our image. Layer, flatten image. Yeah. Now if you wanted a little bit more poppy, I'm going to give you a very quick tip. Do a new layer. I don't know if I like it with this one, but let's just try. Go to your background layer, go to channels, go to, let me see, not blue. Go for the red channel, Control A, Control C, or if you're on a Mac, Command, I believe. Go to layers again, go to the top layer, Control V or Command V on a Mac. And then just go for soft light. And it just gives you a little bit more of that glow back. And in this case, again, I don't want that because I just took it out. But overall, so it's a really cool tip if you want to do something with a little bit more fashion stuff. Okay, looks pretty good. I think this is my Christmas card. I do a file close, save. And overall, I'm done with this image and I'm ready for the next shoot if Nadine is ready. And I already see that Nadine is ready. So Nadine, are you ready? She is ready. Okay, let me first see if there are any more questions. Okay, Wim says it's accepted. I thank you so very much, Wim, for that. Okay, let me just first talk a little bit about that mixing of light sources. So you saw that, let me switch over to my camera, by the way. I think that's a little bit better. There we go. So what you see is that we're actually mixing light sources. Now, there's one thing that a lot of people tell me, like, okay, Frank, which strobe should I buy? What is the best brand? Now, in all honesty, I switched recently to Hensel, so you might expect me to say, hey, Hensel is the best strobe in the world because I switched to it. Yeah, it's a really good strobe. It's probably one of the series that I like the most on the market because otherwise I wouldn't promote them, right? But it doesn't mean you need those strobes to take images. The only thing you need is your imagination and lighting. And lighting can be anything. It can be your smartphone, your flashlight of your smartphone. Now, we recently did a photo shoot with only smartphones and lit everything with a smartphone. And I said, this is a really budget solution. Just use your smartphone. And somebody said, do you know what a smartphone costs? You can buy 2 strobes for that. And I was going like, yeah. There's actually 100% truth in that. But in essence, you can use any lighting because any light will do. And this is one of the titles actually from a video, a full-length tutorial we created. And I want to show you the trailer very quickly because of course we have to set up. That's why we show you those little in-between stuff. So any light will do, guys. This is without a doubt the video I highly, and I couldn't say more highly recommend to you guys. It's like Mount Everest highly, I recommend this video, especially if you're into the creative part. Let's just press play before I do something that you guys find boring. There we go. In this tutorial, we're actually going to show you that you can make great images with very, very simple tools. What to think about a tungsten light bulb. The LED panel. A ring light, your standard flashlight, the Fresnel, the Westcott ice light, smartphones, the Lume Cube, the chandelier. Christmas lights. We call them light snakes over here. This is one of the most creative lighting videos I ever created. I'm very enthusiastic about it. It's available now via our website. See the links. Hey guys, my name is Frank Dorhoff and I'm the author of the book Mastering the Model Shoot. Now, you guys really like the book because we're getting a lot of rave reviews on Amazon and every other online store. So that actually triggered us to make a video series about the book. Now, in the first video, I will tell you everything about the light meter, Now in digital photography, I think the light meter is the one thing that confuses people a lot. Shouldn't I use the histogram, Frank? Isn't there a meter inside the camera? Where do I point the meter? Towards the pretty girl? Towards the camera? Towards the light source? Where? There's a lot of confusion out there. Now in this video, I will give you in more than 70 minutes all the insights out about the light meter. Calibrating, using incident and reflective, using a white background, how to keep details in the black, how to trigger the meter, where to point the meter. You will see everything very easily explained, but you will also see photo shoots including our model Manon. This is one of the videos if you're slightly interested in the light meter, or if you already have a light meter and you want to know everything about it, get this video. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot, the Light Meter, and it's the first video in a whole series that we're going to release in connection to our book Mastering the Model Shoot, and it's available now from our website. Okay guys, so you saw a lot of those videos coming by, and those tutorials of course we create for a certain reason. Now when you look at Digital Classroom, I already give away a lot of information, a lot of tips, a lot of techniques. Always remember that these are free broadcasts. So in other words, we don't charge anything for them, they're totally free and they will stay free. However, if you buy one of the commercial products, so the videos, I'll show you very quickly a link where you can get them. Those videos of course go way more in depth, they give you way more information, and they're filmed professionally, so they're really sharp. They're filmed in 4K and then rendered to 1080p. So head on over to the website, you support our work with it. I really appreciate it if you get those tutorials. Now there was another guy that actually asked me very quickly like, hey Frank, I love what you do in alien skin. Where are those presets? Where can I buy those? Now I have to be honest with presets. I will give you one tip, and this is very important. Don't spend 200 euros or $200 on a preset pack. With all due respect, presets are just presets. You have the software and you have all the options you have available there. So a preset is not something magical. It's something that I create or anybody else creates, and it looks the way that they want it to look. But in essence, you can do it yourself by pulling all the sliders. Now, when I sell the presets, we sell them for 10 euros or 15 euros. So that's a really low price for, I believe, over 50 or 60 presets. Use them as your starting base. So don't spend 200 euros on presets. And don't think like, hey, Frank only charges 10 euros, so those presets will suck and those other ones will be better. And we all do the same thing with those sliders. I just charge a little bit more for you guys. Okay, let me just take this out, just clear the layer. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is actually we're going to do the second set. So let's switch over to our high cam, or let me see which one. Oh, Nadine is looking nice. Wow. Okay, let's just switch over to our high cam, I think. Yeah, or Martin. Yeah, we switch over to Martin's cam. Okay, guys, I'm ready. Now, Nadine, can you please stand in the set? So I want to show you guys something about controlling light and what you can do with controlling light. So you hear me talking a lot about beams of light and all this ethereal stuff, and you should always think like, wow, what does he mean with beams of light? Well, every light source emits lights. Now, when you look at a normal strobe, you will have a flash tube and you will have the modeling light. The modeling lights give you a look at how it will probably look on the set when the strobe goes off. But the modeling light, of course, is different from a flash tube, so there will always be a slight difference. Now, when you use your strobe wide open, so with no modifiers, it will become almost like an omnidirectional light source, meaning the light goes everywhere. This is something that, of course, you don't want. You want that light on your model, and you want to make sure that, for example, there's nothing on the side of your model, or you just want to aim that light. So you use modifiers. Now, one of the most known modifiers, of course, is like an umbrella, or a softbox, or whatnot more. Now, within those softboxes, there are different sizes. Now, normally one could say the bigger the size, the softer the light. That's not 100% true. If, for example, you have a big softbox with 2 or 3 diffusion panels, it will be really soft. If you have a softbox with only the flash tube and then 1 diffusion panel, it will be a little bit harder. So always remember that although it looks big, it doesn't mean it will be soft quality of light. Now, the other thing that you have to do is you have to realize, where do I want that light to go? Do I want that light to go like in this angle, or do I want that light to go like this, really narrow? And that's what I told you about. What I wanted to show you is actually that Light Tools grid that we just got in. And this one absolutely fits. So I hope that very soon they're going to create those also for you guys, so you can buy them at lighttools.com. And this is a really, really tight grid. And as you can see here, it's really stiff. So if you don't know the company Light Tools, make sure you check them out. Light Tools is, without a doubt, I think one of the best manufacturers of grids on the market. And I'm very, very proud to be one of their ambassadors and that they create this stuff for me. Because this is actually tailor-made for my specifications. So that means that it's light gray instead of white or black. So that really, really looks absolutely awesome. Okay, so, and this means actually by using those really tiny egg rates that you can literally aim that light on your model. But how close? Well, I love reds. I love Nadine, of course, and I love Hennewick, and I love Martin and Bart and everybody here and you guys. But how does it look? Well, let me just try it out. So let's go really close to my model. And I mean really close, like this. And just turn it on. Take it all the way up. And just aim it down. And can you stand against the backdrop, please? Like almost hitting it. Yes. Okay. Be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Let's turn it on. Okay, now the first thing, of course, meter the light. So it's like a mantra, meter the light. And in this case, we're going to use a color checker too. Okay, let's turn the light meter on. Okay. Nice. Let's go back to ISO 100. Okay, 2.87. 1, 2, 3. That will be f4. Now 2.87 actually means 2.8 and 7/10 of an f-stop. By adding 3 clicks more, I'm actually on f4. So your light meter always works, or always the way that I set it up, in full f-stop. So that means you go from 2.8 to f4, and there's 10 little steps in between. Your strobes work in 1/10 of an f-stop. So literally you go from 2.8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, f4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, f5.6. Your camera, however, works in thirds of f-stops. So you go actually from 2.8 to 2.83, 2.86, f4. So always remember, when you see something on your light meter and it says 3, go to the big number and just add 1 click. If you see something with 6, go to the big number and just add 2 clicks and you're there. Very, very simple. If you see something with 5, just add a little bit of light on your strobe. If you can't, move your strobe a little bit closer to the model. It's actually pretty simple. Don't overthink it. And I think that's the biggest problem with light meters. People overthink it. Okay, so f4 ISO 100. And let me just show you what you can do with that softbox. Actually, that grid, because the grid is now actually more important than the modifier it's on. So I'm going to go to f4, 125th of a second. And ISO 100.
There's a question about the grid.
Yeah?
How much reduces this grid the light?
It doesn't reduce it a lot, but it will reduce it a little bit. As long as the model is in the hot spot of the light, it won't reduce a lot. But because it's so narrow, it will take away some light. But we just got it in, so I really should check that out more. But as I can see now, it takes away about one stop max. And as you can see here, this is just a beautiful, beautiful light quality. And it's like a beam of light literally just hitting my model. And it's a very, very bright backdrop. It's the Leicester light. And this is, I believe, the limestone. I just love how this renders. Nice. Nadine, you rock. Absolutely awesome. And you see that I'm always coaching my model, always keep talking. Nice. Okay, there we go. And of course do some close-ups. Okay. Nice. Now I'm using eye focus again. And as you can see, it works flawlessly. I can just keep my camera still and the camera just finds the eyes of the model. It's like voodoo. Okay, let's change that light source a little bit. And one of the things that I love about these kinds of grids, and of course also the strip lights, is you can use them really close to the model. Now what happens when you're really close to the model? Now sometimes you see those images, and you can see it actually on the screen now, where you have that little bit of pop in the image. Now when I started out photography, and I talk about many, many years ago, I started out with builder's lights. So those were like those 1000 hot lights, watts, 1000 watt hot lights that you use normally when you build a house. And we just lit our models with it. Make sure that you don't put any diffusion material on it because it will catch on fire. Then I switched over to another brand, and I'm not gonna mention any names. And it was not Emmeloord, by the way, so don't worry. It was really like a cheap brand. Like you buy, when you go to the Chinese restaurant and you order some family dinner, you get them for free, that kind of brand. And somehow when I shot those images with those strobes, although it were strobes, I never had that real pop in my image, that real sharpness. Until I started moving my light sources really, really close to the model. Now when I switched from that brand to Emmeloord, the first thing you noticed was that my images became a little bit more crisp, a little bit more sharp, a little bit more hyper-real or three-dimensional. When I switched to Hansel, the same thing happened. Now, one of the things that we think where the problem is, or the problem actually where it comes from, is that the flash duration of the Hansels is a lot higher than from any other brands that I used before. And those flash durations will probably just give you a little bit of maybe micro contrast or whatever. If you hear me talking and you go like, Frank, that's absolutely not true, you're just making this up. Just look at my portfolio and you will see that when we switch to Hansel, the images just get a little bit more rounder, a little bit more three-dimensional. And again, I don't know where it lies. Maybe it's the modifiers, but I don't think so. I think it has to do with flash duration. And by moving that light so close to the model, the second thing that I'm adding is light fall-off. So I'm adding that really fast flash duration from the Hansel with a really narrow beam of light, but also by closing it to my model, the light fall-off is incredibly fast. So when you move your light further away, the light fall-off is longer. When you move it really close, the light fall-off is almost instant. So let's just try a little bit with that technique and just make it a little bit more adventurous by placing it literally here and just moving it like this. And that's the cool thing about a strip light. You can actually just use it like this. So what I'm now doing is I'm actually using it in horizontal version instead of vertical. Do I need to remeter? Yeah. So let's just grab a meter. Can you see through the grid?
There I can, there I don't.
There you can, there you can't. Okay, can't. And that's absolutely true. So Nadine actually told me I can see through the grid, but only at one point. And that's the cool thing. Let me first do this. Okay. The cool thing about using a grid is actually that the grid is straight. So that means that when you use a strip light like this, the light will be literally forced straight on. So it means that you have way more control than, for example, a strip light where there's no grid. So after this shot, I will actually just change it over to one without a grid, or I will take the grid out of this one. And I will show you the difference. At that point, we also know how much light the grid actually takes away. So I'm now at f4. Again. Okay, let's just choose a side shot. I really like this. Nice, Nadine. Just go a little bit lower. Now I will have the light in the frame, but I can always choose to crop that out. Or maybe this will be a really cool shot for light tools to use. So you can actually see how narrow that light beam is. I think they will love this. Nice. So now I'm actually shooting it intentionally. And now I shoot it like I can crop it out. Now if you want more flat lighting, you just stand over here and let your model look straight at you. Oh. There we go. Look down a little bit towards the light, camera. Love it. Now look up a little bit. Nice. I do think there's a little bit too much light on her arms instead of her face, so let's just aim it a little bit higher. There we go. Absolutely nice, Nadine. Okay. Add a little bit more power. There we go. Now we're there. Look a little bit towards the backdrop. That's nice. Cool. Let's do one for light tools again. Cool. Okay. So let's take the grid out and just see how much it takes away the light, because that was one of the questions. Okay. And a week, did you use super glue?
Meanwhile, we get a lot of compliments for the styling of Nadine. They love her red outfit and your blue eyes, Nadine.
Oh, there we go. And the cool thing about this one is you just fold it up like this. And you can actually, it sounds so scary, but it's actually how it's supposed to be. So if you have a small studio, this is the whole grid. And of course, there you go. And there you are again. It's really, really high quality, this. Absolutely amazing. Stunning.
So it's also easy to ship because it's so small.
Yeah, and it's easy to ship. We just got it in. Like, we knew that the grids were coming in. And I got this small package from FedEx. And they were going like, here you go. And she's going like, really? And 2 grids were in there. So, yeah, really small. Okay. Let's just see. So we were at... Two, 1, 2, and we have audio back. So sorry guys for the white noise or whatever. Okay, there's let me do some questions very fast in between. Sorry, Nadine. I think all the red and gold in Nadine's outfits worked really well with the striking blue eyes. Yes. I thought Ellingham had the fastest flash duration. No. Ellingham has the ELCs, which actually are pretty fast. In the middle setting, they're about 1/5500th of a second, which is more than enough to freeze action. The Hensel experts actually top out at around, they say on paper, I believe 1/6000th of a second. But we actually metered over here like 1/9000th of a second. And in all honesty, they have it over almost the complete range. They're faster. So it's very, very close, but the Hensels are a little bit faster and they recycle a little bit faster. But in the end, the ELCs from Ellingham, they rock. The experts from Hensel, they rock a little bit harder. So whatever you want to call it, but they're a little bit faster, but not that much. Okay, let's switch back to Nadine. That's the high cam. Okay, let's just meter. Okay, and if you can take over again. Now we have audio back. That's the main advantage of doing a live shoot, and also the big disadvantage. Okay, let's see how much that Light Tools grid takes away. And now don't judge the grid by this, because remember, the light is very, very close to the model, so that means that the light will get a lot of reduction for the very simple reason it's so close. The X rates are really tight, so it will get a lot of hits, but probably it will be okay. Yeah, 5.65. So I said one stop, and one stop we actually metered with the previous grid from about 1 meter distance. The closer you get with the grid, the more you have that narrow light beam. So it takes about 1.5 stops, which is, in my opinion, with a grid this close, it's pretty good. And that's why we actually didn't go for black grids, but for medium or light gray, because that will reflect just a little bit of that light back. Okay, let's go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're now at 5.6. And let's just see how that looks. So you remember how it looked like this. So now let's see how it looks without that grid. And you will see why I love those grids so much. Or maybe now I just love it without grid. You never know. Okay. And this is without the grid. And let me just take a distance shot. And as you can see, there's a lot more light spill. And that nice tight light beam is gone. And that's what I just love about those grids. It really narrows it. And that also means, by the way, for your Octa softboxes or your beauty dish or your normal reflectors, those grids are really one thing that you have to invest in. Let's do the same thing from the front again. Okay. I think it was approximately here. So let's meter that. Okay. .63. 1, 2, 3. So now we're at 5.6. And for this one, we're also going to need a color checker in a moment, Bart. So if you can grab me the color checker. Okay. Do the same thing. And now look at the difference. So before we had this really nice narrow beam. And here you can see that it's a little bit wider. It's still narrow, of course. Hey, it's a strip light. But you can see that this is totally different. And for both, you can say something. Both are absolutely awesome, but it just gives you a little bit of extra by using that grid. Awesome. Okay, can I have the color checker?
Meanwhile, Paul Meulemans is asking about the price. And
I don't know a price of these because officially they don't exist.
But it's also from Light Tools.
Yeah.
So,
Light Tools is not cheap.
yes.
But, in all honesty, thank you so very much. I will answer that question myself in a second. So let me go to the computer and let's see what we can do in Photoshop. And we're going to do some photo critiques for you guys. Because we also have some photo critiques left. Okay. Let me switch to my camera, the frame cam. There we go. Okay, so pricing Light Tools. You have to realize one thing. Light Tools is like the Bentley in the grids. This is not a brand that is out on the market to get the cheapest possible grids for you guys, that literally when you hold your strobe like this, it will hang down and you go like, what the heck, why do I have a grid in there? Light Tools is a brand that we actually had it in our Ellingrams in the deep octas. And I think, anyway, how many years? 6 years? And I'm not careful with my strobes. I always think like, hey, there's a grid in there. I'm not going to store it like this. I'm just going to let it hang like this because this is how I use my strobe. And it doesn't make any sense for me. Oh, I have a grid in, so I have to store it like this. So for 6 years, it was hanging under a 45-degree angle or straight up or down or whatever. So I never took notice of it. And it just was exactly the same stiffness that it was when we got it new. So in the end, you can buy a cheaper grid. Let's say you can buy something for half price, but after 2 or 3 years, or maybe even at the moment you buy it, it's already start to hang. And at that point, the grid doesn't make any sense anymore, because remember that light, and this is something that a lot of people forget when they buy grids, the light has to have a straight way of channeling. So in other words, if your grid is really tight, the light will literally travel through those egg grates and hit your model on exactly the right location. If that light isn't going straight through, and for example your grid is doing like this, so it's a little bit like hanging, the light will literally just go into that grid and just disappear, and you get like maybe this light instead of this light. So that's why it's very important to invest a little bit more extra money in grids. If you don't have the extra money, don't worry, grids will work, and just get a slightly cheaper one. But if you want top quality and you want to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do in soft boxes, make sure you get those light tool ones. So we don't know any prices yet. Literally, this is a beta they just sent me. As soon as I say it's okay, then they will start producing them, and then probably you can buy them. Awesome. Any other questions? Let me see. Are the grids for Hensel just as ridiculously expensive as the grids for Ellingrom? It's not ridiculously expensive. It's more high-end, so it's literally a little bit more expensive than other brands. But I don't like the word expensive. And again, it's quality that you pay for. I recently had a discussion with somebody about cameras, and he said, Frank, I don't understand why Sony is so incredibly expensive. And I said, it's not expensive. It's buy a Leica. Now, a Leica, I love Leica. And to prove this, that you guys know I'm not kidding around, I love Leica. This is an R7 actually. I also have an R5. And I have a lot of Leica R glass, so I'm a big Leica fan. But talk about expensive. Leica, in my opinion, is expensive. Sony and Light Tools are brands that are high-end. So you pay more money, but you get exactly what you pay for. With Leica, again, I love Leica. I absolutely adore their products. But the pricing, that's totally out of whack. It's way, way too expensive for what you get. With Sony, Hensel, Light Tools, Ellingrom, Profoto, you get what you pay for. And it's a little bit more expensive, yes. Okay, let me see. Have you ever tried Westcott grids, Frank? No, I never tried them. I know Westcott very good. They're very good friends of us. I never tried their grids. Maybe one day I will try those too. So Westcott, if you're listening, I'm open. Hey, anyway, so let me see what we can do more. Let me see if we have any more. Okay. I always get a reflection to the side of my grid when I don't use the inner diffuser. I don't see that problem at your studio. Do you also use the inner diffuser? Yes. When I use the grid on the strip lights, we use the inner diffusion. When we use it on the soft boxes, we only use the inner diffusion and we don't use the front diffuser. So the front diffuser I take off, the inner diffuser I let in. And the reason for that is very, very simple. If you have a softbox that's this big and you have a flash tube behind it, the flash tube can actually only light this. So your softbox will be very bright in the center, and more you go to the outsides, the more the light will actually fall off. Now in the past, Ellingrom actually used a system called indirect softboxes, where you don't light your softbox like this is the front of the softbox, this is where the strobe goes in, so the strobe actually fires forward. What they did, and that was, I believe, the 190 from Ellingrom, they actually used the softbox and they used the strobe like this. So the strobe actually hit the side of the softbox and went out, like a little bit like a beauty dish and a deflector. Now, when you look at the new softboxes, like, for example, the Hensels we have here and also the other brands, and you look at the deep softboxes, there's a reasoning behind deep. The first reason, of course, is you channel that light. So in other words, because they're deeper, you have that bigger trough in your softbox, so it actually just steers that light forward and it reduces spill light. That's great. The other thing, of course, is because it moves more forward, your flash tube actually gets more distance. So that means that you can light a greater area. And by using a middle diffuser, what actually happens is you take the hotspot out, the middle diffuser gets all lit up, becomes your new light source, and that actually lights the rest of the softbox. So that's why the bigger softboxes like the 120 or 150 or 190 or whatever and up, you really need to keep that inner diffusion panel in. In strip lights, not so much. The only problem with strip lights, of course, is if you take the inner diffusion panel off, your strip light will be reduced from this to this, in effect. So you will still have light on the top, but it will be like half a stop less than in the middle. And when you use the diffusion panel, probably top to bottom will be correctly lit. So that's why they use those diffusion panels in the middle. It has also to do something with making the light, of course, softer, but most of all, it's just to make sure that it's correctly lit. Let me see, we have another question. Okay, Annemiek, do you have any questions on Facebook? Okay, no questions on Facebook. Okay, then we're going to look at those shots very quickly, and I'm going to show you what I do with the color checker. So at the moment, and I have to be very careful what I say. So if you listen correctly, you can hear something in my voice. At the moment, there is not, you see me blinking? See, I have something in my eye. But at the moment, there's not a solution yet to use the color checker for capture 1. You see, I still have a twitch in my eye. That's at the moment. Maybe a Christmas present will come up with something else, but hey, you never know. Okay, so for the moment, I have to do this. I just go up here with the color picker, just take my white balance, and just select all my images. Oh, select all my images. There we go. And just do adjustments, copy and apply. And there we go. So now all my images are correct. Okay, so from these images, let me see which one I really like. Oh, I love this one. And this one. So let me take this one. Okay. Close-ups are cool too, but too flat for my personal taste. Okay, this was from the side, which I really like. And at one point we thought, why not make something for light tools? So let's take this one. Oh, I really like this. I see I'm always really enthusiastic about those shots when they come in. And this is the cool thing. As soon as you see a shot that's really cool, you immediately will respond like, oh, wow, this is nice. Okay, and this was actually without the grid. And as you can see, it's still nice because it's really close to the model, right? So some of you may say like, hey, why do I spend so much money for a grid when it only narrows the light this little bit? That's because at the moment, the light is really close to the model. As soon as you start changing that distance, this will happen with a normal normal strip light. So this is close by. Let me do this. This is close by, and this is how far we go. And at one point, it just spreads out too much. When you use a grid, this happens. It's a little bit narrower when you close, but the further you go away, it doesn't go like this, but it just goes like this. So when you put your strobe like 1 or 2 meters away, there's a huge difference. The difference is like this or this. When you put it really close to the model, the difference is like this and this. And this is actually what you see on this image. But that's because it's so close, the light fall off is really fast, right? And that's why, because I like to light my models really close, I just need those grids because I want that really, really narrow beam of light. Okay, so I like this one too. And then in the end, we made some shots. Actually, the first one this is nice. Okay. This one is even better. Oops. Beetje vaag. Okay, let's go to ratings and let's just show you what we can do with these. And then I'm only going to retouch one, so don't worry. And after that, we're going to do some photo critiques from you guys. I see the difference. This is with the grid. This is without. So this is a huge difference. This is like a beam of light on my model. So we have this beam here. And when I go to this one, it's actually like everything is lit. And especially here on the top, you can see it. Like here, the top is like already feathered out. And here, it's just full blast light. Okay, let's retouch this one. Control D, go into Photoshop. Okay. This one I want a little bit darker, but I want that backdrop to really, really shine. But first, let's do something that I didn't see while I shot it. Let's just level this a little bit. There we go, that's better. Okay, now one of the cool things about Photoshop is you can actually record actions. So what I did is my portrait smooth, which actually runs image normal portraiture in the back, has an action. So I just press play and it goes twice as fast and I already have that black piece of paper. Now the only thing I have to do is go in, take a white brush, put it on, let's say 50% again, and just do this. Okay. There we go. Same in the face. Now because this is way harsher light, I'm gonna add a little bit more blur here. Or blur, skin smoothing. Let's call it skin smoothing. And I can actually just move this slider up to, let's say, 80%. And only do the areas where I want it. So I'm not gonna do the whole face, only the areas where I want it. And it doesn't have to be a Barbie, just a little bit below. Okay, there we go. Nice. Okay, let's do luminar now, just for fun. So let's make a new layer. Now let's go to luminar. So go to luminar 3, that's the new version. It's starting on the other monitor, so one moment guys. I'm gonna drag it down so you guys can see. Okay. Now, the first thing I like to have a little bit more of a vignette here. This almost looks correct. It actually looks correct. Look at this. It really pops. So do a little bit less sharpness. No. Oh, this is nice. So when I compare it to the first one, this is a little bit too harsh. And this one I really love. So press OK. It does open up the middle just a little bit more, but in this case I don't really mind. So just go to OK. Do remember you're using this look for the very simple reason if I do another shot I have to remember which one I use, because otherwise it looks weird. Okay, are there already guests known for Professional Imaging 2019? Can you give us a hint? The hint I'm going to give you is I'm going to be there. And I already know who else is going to be there, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. So you have to get your tickets online. It's free for... No, it's not free, of course. All the seminars are free and all the demos and live shoots. The tickets are, I believe, 10 euros or whatever. That's including parking. And it's absolutely worth it. Trust me. And we have some really cool speakers because it's the 20th anniversary. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. Another question, do you know if there are any adapters from Hensel to Ellingham? Yes, there are many adapters available. I know the guys from Hensel, the Dutch importer, actually modifies beauty dishes, softboxes and whatnot more to fit your Ellingham system. So I know a lot of my students and viewers actually use Ellingham. And again, it's a really cool brand. So don't worry, I still love Ellingham. So a lot of people still use Ellingham, and they should, of course. And if you want to use those Hensel modifiers like the beauty dish, that's one of the things that I highly recommend you getting, and the 14-inch reflector if you're outside. The 14-inch reflector is like the perfect substitute for the maxi light. It's a little bit more aimed, it's a little bit more powerful, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful reflector. So the 14-inch reflector and the beauty dish from Hensel, without any doubt, great to fit on your Ellingham or Profoto system. The converters you can buy straight from the importer. So in this case, it's Hensel Studio Technique in the Netherlands. Just email me for the address. And you can also, of course, go online and go, for example, on Alibaba or AliExpress or eBay. There are many different connectors. Do make sure that when you order online that you very closely look at the order. So when you go from Hensel to Ellingham, they actually mean the modifier from Hensel on Ellingham. But a lot of people order Ellingham to Hensel. And that's actually the modifier, of course, from... Just look it up, because now I'm doubting myself. But it's very confusing, and sometimes you actually order the wrong thing. So make sure that you check it or email the seller. What is this? Is this to mount Ellingham on Hensel or to mount Hensel on Ellingham? So make sure you check that out. Saves you a lot of money. Okay, so overall, the image. I really like it. I don't think I have to change anything. Let's go to 100% if the skin is still nice. Really like that. And as you can see, it's a little bit darker, a little bit lighter than what I saw before. So let's give it a little bit of a curve to mimic it a little bit more like I saw in the preview.
I got a question.
There we go. Okay, Bart has a question. Tell me the question.
Fernando asks, are you applying alien skin?
Okay, the question is, are you applying alien skin? At the moment, not. At the moment, I'm using Luminar, but I love and adore alien skin. So yes, normally I use a lot of alien skin. Okay, let's go down layer. And for people who don't know what alien skin is, that's a plugin. So it's nothing to do with aliens or the whatever. It's a cool name. Okay, now let's say I want to enhance those reds a little bit. Now you can of course do it with saturation and layers, but there's also another option. When you go here into your dots tool and you hold it long, you see the sponge tool. Just use the sponge tool on saturation and only do it 35%. And just go over the areas you want extra oomph. Just add some extra oomph. There we go. Really nice. Don't overdo it. It's very easy to do, especially because you build it up so you don't literally see what you're doing and sometimes you're destroying your image. This looks pretty nice. Okay, file close. And you're done. Cool. Okay, let's do some of you guys photo critique because that's of course what you also want to do. Okay, so let's just open up my computer here very quickly. And we're going to do some of you guys' images. Now again, you can send those images into info@frankdorov.com, no problem at all. And during these broadcasts, I will actually review those images for you guys. Do one. Let's do 3. I'm going to do that really fast. I hope. Nope. My computer says otherwise. Computer says no. Okay, do a review. Come on. There we go. That's better. Ooh. Yeah, that one always works with me. Okay, now I never see these images before. I do that on purpose. I just drop them in the Dropbox. And at that moment, I will literally just open them up and look. That's the same thing, by the way, we do for Patreon. Now, Patreon is really cool. Every month I do a review for the guys on Patreon. And what I do during the review is literally I go through the images the first time I see them. And I will do a full retouch and critique. And I do that every month for all you guys. So, in other words, if you're on Patreon, every month you will get a review like that. Okay, so now let's do this. And on Patreon, they're much longer. They're normally run into the 10 to 15 minutes. So this is fast. Okay, the first thing, and this is always the first thing that I do. I think it's really dark. Now, if you have the raw file, I would open up the shadows just a little bit. But let's see if I can do that on the, how do you call it, on the JPEG. So let's go to shadows and highlights. Okay, it doesn't make it any nicer, but let's just try it like this. Okay, now it's opened up just a little bit more. Bye-bye. Somebody's leaving the studio. And now the other thing that really draws my attention is actually this top part. Now, in all honesty, I would clone it just black probably. And I know it's the feet of the little guy, but I'm so sorry, guy. You're going to go through life without foot. Or at least in this shot. Luckily, it's just Photoshop. So I think I will just do it like this, but maybe even... Let's make it even more interesting. Do it like this. There we go. Now it's square, and I'm playing a little bit with the composition because I'm not 100% certain it's shot from a higher angle up. I would personally, with a kit like this, just go a little bit lower and just shoot it up so it actually looks straight into the camera. And it shouldn't be that much higher. I think you shooting under this angle, just go here. Don't go there because then it's like, it's also cool, by the way. It looks like an end perspective. Just go here. Okay, let me see. There was a question in between. Frank, you always say you have to crop a photo. Why not with this one? I never say you have to crop a photo. That's a misunderstanding, I think. What I say is try as much as possible to crop the photo in camera. So in other words, when you take the shot, crop it in camera. So as soon as you take the shot, that's the one that you're going to work with. And a lot of people just shoot and then later on in Photoshop they make the composition. One, it's a lot more work. 2, sometimes it just doesn't work. And 3, why? Just do it when you shoot. The reason I changed the previous shot, and that can happen a lot, by the way, I'm only human, but the reason I changed the previous shot was because it looked a little bit skewed. So I didn't really crop the shot. What I did was actually I just leveled the shot. And of course I'm shooting handhold, so sometimes, and I'm explaining stuff, it's a live broadcast, I'm stressed, I'm very terrified for the camera, of course. So sometimes I just miss a shot, and then I just composition it differently.
I've also got a question.
Oh, you also have a question.
Fernando asks again, I'm a little bit confused. You use Capture One for tethering, Luminar for developing raw, Photoshop to edit, and Alien Skin for skin softening.
Okay, so somebody is confused. He said, you're using Capture One for capturing tethered. You're using Luminar for raw conversion. You're using Alien Skin for skin softening. You really have to watch the whole show. Let me explain. I'm using Capture One for tethering. The only reason I'm using Capture One for tethering is because it's blazingly fast. It's one of the best tethering solutions on the market. There's nothing, literally nothing that comes close to Capture One when it goes for tethering. The other reason I'm using Capture One is for that focus overlay mask I showed you before, where everything is green, that's in focus. The other thing is the loop. You just hold it on the eyes and immediately it is sharp. That's Capture One. The other reason I'm using Capture One is because it gives you an awesome raw developing options. So when I go from my photos into Photoshop, I'm using the raw conversion from Capture One. So I tether into Capture One, I go from Capture One into Photoshop. So I'm using the raw conversion from Capture One. Luminar I'm running as a plugin, so I'm not using the raw conversion from Luminar. Luminar is within Photoshop. And Alien Skin Exposure is used for tinting the images. Now there are several solutions for tinting images. You have DxO Film Pack, you have of course Topaz Studio, you have On One, which I don't use personally, but it's a really cool software solution, but somewhere you have to draw the line. You have of course Alien Skin Exposure, and then many other different tinting solutions. You just have to find the one that you like. For me, when I look at workflow, I really love Alien Skin Exposure and Luminar. Luminar I like for the more gritty stuff, so where you want to enhance smoke or you want to enhance the backdrops a little bit more, like in the previous shot. It just gives you that little bit of bite. When it goes into tinting, I immediately go to Alien Skin Exposure. Nothing compares to Alien Skin Exposure. It's just freaking awesome. And Luminar, again, for that hyper sharpening. Topaz Studio lies somewhere in between. If you only can afford one software solution, I actually think that Topaz Studio comes really close because there's a huge community that creates plugins and presets, and it just does everything. It just does everything the best. Now for skin smoothing, we use image-nomic portraiture, which is about I think the industry standard for skin smoothing. So that's what I use. So I don't use raw conversion from Luminar. I use Capture One for that. Okay, so this is what I would do with this shot, just crop it differently. And overall, I feel Batman, what else not to like? What is not to like, sorry. Okay, this one. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This is somebody's Christmas card, probably. Did I put it by accident in the review? That could very well be. If that's so, sorry, I'm still going to critique the image. Okay, what I love about this shot is that you can actually see the trees coming through her hair. I may or may not have enhanced that even a little bit more. So I would probably just make that a little bit more visible so that you have a little bit more of the trees coming in. Because now you can still see that she has a lot of hair. Maybe or maybe not. It would be nice to do this. Just take your clone tool. And again, this is very, very personal. If you guys go like, no, Frank, you're absolutely right. If you go like, yes, Frank, you're absolutely right. Because this is 100% personal. And I would just take some stuff from here, and he or she already did it, but I would do it just a little bit more. And because I'm on a very, very low opacity, you can actually build up that effect, as you can see here. There we go. And it's a very subtle difference, but it's something that I really like. Now this is, I think, a little bit too obvious, so I would take this out. And I do that with a healing brush. There we go. Overall, I really like it. One could say make the face a little bit more bright, but hey, Now, I do have to add one thing. And this is a little bit mean, and don't take it this way. When you do a Christmas card, or when you do an advert for, let's say, I'm doing an advert for this microphone. And it's a crappy microphone. It was like 10 euros or whatever. If I do an advert for this microphone, I'm not going to do an advert for a microphone like this. Buy this microphone. It's really nice. You know what I mean? If I do an advert for a microphone, and this is a microphone, for example, that's used for a band, I will literally take a picture of a band and just where that microphone is used, and just make sure that the light hits that microphone, that the singer just holds the microphone so I can see the brand, or I can see something that if this red dot is really important for that microphone, I'm going to make sure that I see that red dot, and that it has to be in that atmosphere. When I look at this shot, it's a really cool Christmas card. It's a really cool lady, but it doesn't scream Christmas. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful portrait with a white shirt and a beautiful model and great hair, but it doesn't scream Christmas for me. The only thing it screams Christmas is because you see snow and you see Merry Christmas. So that's my tip for the creator of this one. Love it, but I would like to have a little bit more storytelling, and that's actually what I really saw with the next image. What's this? So remember this one? And again, I never mean it negative, guys. That's why you send those images in. If I only say wow and okay and great, there's absolutely no educational value in there. So I never, let me put it this way. If there's an image that's sent to me that's really, really bad, I won't critique it for the very simple reason I'm not here to tear you guys down. I'm here to give you guys tips. But sometimes they can be a little bit more confronting. So I'm very sorry for that. But I think that's okay. Let me see. You already reviewed this one last year. That was my Christmas card. Oops. I'm really sorry, Johan. Let me show you. Send me your Christmas card for this year, please. So I will give you another advice. So I know Johan can take it. So that's great. I won with a Christmas competition, remember? Yeah, that's true. You won the Christmas competition last year. That's absolutely true. Now I remember. Okay, so storytelling. See the difference? And I'm looking straight at Johan. Do you see the difference between this one and your image? This one tells a story. Now, I always try to change stuff in an image to give you guys advice, right? I don't know what to do. Glam and Grunge. I know you were online like at the start. This is absolutely stunning. I just love this. This is, wow. You see that we see the light in her eyes, the red on her knife, and that's something that a lot of time is forgotten. Recently I did a portfolio review for Patreon, and there was this really cool shot, like an amazing shot. The only thing was the blade was totally clean. And we just messed that up, make it more rusty, and you can do that with overlays, and it made a huge difference. Now as you can see here, the blood, it really makes a huge difference. And now some people will say it doesn't make any sense. A doll doesn't bleed. Did you ever watch horror movies? They do, and they're alive. So, yeah. Sorry, just let me carry away. Okay, I love this shot. Lighting-wise, this is insanely well done. Like, there's one light on the doll's face. You still see the blade, which is incredibly difficult, guys. Trust me, lighting a blade that's reflective is a nightmare. The blood is amazing. Maybe I would have liked to have a little bit more light on that bottom part here. You see that she's crying blood, and the only thing, maybe, let me see how high the resolution is of this one. Okay, this is it. So let's go to 200%. The only thing I would take out, and that's just personal, is this one cat's light. There we go. Because that's a dead giveaway that you use strobes. Okay. And another thing that caught my eye, it's this part. So just take the lasso and just take that part out. There we go. Okay. So what more can we do with this shot? Nothing. It's perfect. Well, let me just try. Go here, take the dodge tool. Let me just enhance this just a little bit. Not too much. Remember, I wanted a little bit more light here. Try if we can do that. And the dodge tool is absolutely amazing for this stuff. You're literally painting in light. So what I'm now doing is I'm actually accenting the highlights. just a little bit. There we go. So I'm just accenting the highlights. Go in here. Maybe also the hairs. Oh, look at this. Nice, maybe a little bit here. No, don't blow out the windows. So to that back. Maybe this just a little bit. And in all honesty, I'm just experimenting a little bit because again, the image already is so incredibly powerful and cool. There we go. So before and after. It's very subtle, but it just makes a difference for me. And just go to the dot sponge tool because it's almost black and white. It's not black and white, of course. There's color, but it's very, all the colors are actually in the same range. For me, that doesn't make any sense what I say, but it means that there's already a really dark tint. There are no like bright blue, bright pink, or bright yellow, whatever. Only that red shines out. So that's what I really like about this shot. I think I overdid the knife just a little bit, but hey. Oh, on the BenQ it absolutely looks gorgeous. On this one it looks a little bit overexposed. There we go. Okay. Looks absolutely stunning. Again, you don't have to change anything, but if I would change anything, it would be this. Stunning image, stunning image. Really love this. And this is, by the way, why I always tell you guys that I never ever look at those shots before. I literally get them in and I look at them, and that's why I was so surprised. I was like, wow, that really looks awesome. Okay, I've talked about Patreon a few times. Let me just show you what you get when you join our Patreon. And then we will be back with some news. Hey guys, and welcome to our studio in Emmeloord. My name is Frank Dorhoff, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that we get a lot of questions about. Hey Frank, how do you like this image? Hey Frank, what can I improve in this image? And of course, I love to help you guys out. But online, I mostly am limited to just saying, hey, I really like it, or continue like this, or change this. I can only do short images because, let's be honest, we get so many questions. So that's what actually got us thinking. And we started a Patreon. Now, what is a Patreon? Well, let me put it this way. Do you want an extensive photo critique every month? Do you want the bed phone, where you can directly contact me with any questions you have? Do you want to be a member of a group that's closed off on Facebook that have the same interest as you guys? That isn't about putting people down, but it's actually about helping people progress in their photography and retouching. Well, that's our Patreon. Now, by joining our Patreon, every month you can deliver 1 or 2 images. We're not that strict about it. And I will do a whole video. In that video, I will show you how I would do the retouching, what I would change about the shot, and I give you a whole lot of tips. That video is put online on a closed-off website. And it means that only the guys from Patreon can see that video and help you out. So I help you out, and the whole community helps you out. It's just an awesome way to learn. So, if you like what we do, of course the first thing you can do is subscribe to our channels, leave comments, and smash that like button because we really like it, and tell other people about it. But if you want to do a little bit more and help us out creating the awesome programs you enjoy, like Behind the Closed Doors, Digital Classroom, quite frankly, our upcoming podcast, Beyond Photography with the Dorhoffs, and a lot more, then please join our Patreon. I already know you're absolutely gonna love it. So head on over to the link below and start joining our awesome group on Patreon and get a lot of benefits. Thank you so very much for supporting our work. See you online. Okay guys, so that was Patreon. Now the news I was talking about is January 16th. We have another digital classroom coming up. And I'm trying to do the same thing as we did before with Martin Hogeboom, to get a speaker in. Of course, a different speaker again, because that's going to be a series with different speakers. And it's going to be absolutely awesome if we can get the guy, trust me. He's a really good photographer. Of course, professional imaging, you have to go there. And, of course, in January, we're going to film new classes for Calby 1. The other thing is, and that's really nice to note, is that on Monday, it's Christmas Eve, of course, but we're still going to try to get you guys an episode of the guitar project, because a lot of guys have asked it. And it's actually finished at the moment. So here we go. As you can see here, we have some beds. we have the Batman logo. And here we go. And of course it's, and this is the cool thing, Rulina, the girl that painted this, didn't know. But the Killing Joke, which is actually this part, the Joker from the Killing Joke, actually was the first trade paperback I bought. And that got me hooked on comics and Batman. So really cool. And it looks amazing. It's now that final coating is on, it just shines and the colors are bright. I just put some images online, so make sure to check it out. And don't you just love guitars? You never have too many. Okay, so there are no more questions. So that means that we're going to wrap this up. And again, if you have any questions, leave them below. If you like what we do, subscribe to our channel, leave comments below, smash that like button. On Friday, we have 2 workshops, but no behind closed doors. Because on Saturday, I will be speaking at Camera Nu for Sony. And that, of course, will be in the behind closed doors. And we have a cool new product coming in. I just got an email. It's really small. You can hold it like this. And it has a 4K camera. So very soon you're going to see a review of that one, because that's going to be our new vlogging camera if it works the way that it's advertised. But I think it will do. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. Thank BenQ and Rogue for sponsoring Digital Classroom. You guys rock. If you want a new monitor, without any doubt, check out BenQ. If you want a really cool flash modification for speedlights, check out Rogue Expo Imaging. I highly recommend them. And they even have a flash bender with my name on it. The Frank Doroff Flash Bender Soft Silver. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. See you again next time. Bye-bye. Oh, and Merry Christmas, of course. And a Happy New Year. Thank you. Bye, guys.